Alright, last we left off, we freed an Emerson. She was hanging out in a hot saltwater tub. Let's see here. Google Earth real quick. So, Maggie has flown the ship little west and south of Toronto, parked it in some underground tunnels. In the distance, you can see the lights of what looks like a machine city. You can even hear, to some extent, the sounds of aircraft and various like machinery chugging along in the distance. You're not privy to what exactly goes on in those cities. You've only ever seen them and heard them at a distance, but it has the kind of hum of what you would imagine would be an active city for humans. Oh, buggers. You're still barking at the door.
Oh, puppers.
Let's see here. So, Emerson, you're kind of still just lounging in this tub. Hayden has been feeding you, trying to get you caught up to speed. And she says, "Oh, I guess we should probably tell you why we're in this little town. And she walks over to like a nearby screen, and she pulls out from under it a keyboard, and she says, the apocalypse killed all of the like mouses apparently, so like they had to teach me all these keyboard shortcuts." And she starts like doing really awkward keyboard shortcuts to like control the screen. And she's like, it's like in those movies where they click like 30 buttons and only 3 things happen. It feels really unintuitive, and she's just trying to remember. Eventually, she does bring up like a series of what look like articles. She says, one of our like friends, operatives, I don't really know what we call him. He gave us all these. He found various instances of people destroying like electrical power substations, and most of them seemed to be just like crazy extremists that didn't like drag shows, or one of them was even a green energy guy, but somehow destroying a power substation was supposed to help that cause. I'm kind of unclear, but at least some of them in the area of Medellin Falls, where we are right currently, they seem to be almost less malicious, but they haven't merited a response from the system. They've just let those ones happen and haven't done anything about it. And then she even sees like a new article that she hadn't seen before. And she says, "Oh, they must have just sent us this one." And then you do see that there's a little note on it that just says, "Courtesy Virgil" at the bottom. There's even been a new instance of power substation sabotage in the last, week since all of this has come to pass.
Interesting.
All right. I'll ask a dumb question. What exactly does this have to do with the town? I'm curious. Do we need to like check the power systems, or?
Well, Maggie says, I don't really know. It just, all that Virgil knew was that these other high-profile power substation like sabotages elsewhere in the country were meriting like big police responses. There were basically agents were arriving on scene and getting everything up and running again. Because these substations in the simulation, it's like software to hardware. So when those substations go down, hardware in the real world goes down as well. So they have like a vested interest in making sure all this stuff stays up and running. But the substations that were attacked in Medellin Falls received no response. They just let them be destroyed. And this is kind of in line with the idea that, like, the agents seem to, like, not be able to go there, or they don't want to go there. What is it, Rox? There's a boy down the well? She nodded yes. She's never been to a well, so I know that she's lying.
Oh, but there could be a boy down one.
I mean, she could be psychic. That's true.
You never
Or she
know.
pushed him there.
It's like, I've committed a crime.
Hurting myself in. Do you guys think it's a coincidence that we found a near red at this place?
Oh, definitely not. Also, we also could probably figure out who exactly in town had the power to try to beat Gray's face in. That's kind of worrying.
Yeah, Maggie
are-
seems like particularly troubled by that.
Oh.
She's just kind of thinking hard.
Or what was in that syringe?
And she kind of like snaps and she says, if you see that thing again, you need to get it for me so that I can, I don't know, figure out what it is, figure out what's in it.
Yeah, well, we were kind of focused on staying alive.
she kind of
Which I
nods.
appreciate.
She's like, I would struggle to remember things when a building got dropped on my head as well, so I don't blame you at all.
That was also my fault.
She just, like, I think there's maybe a moment where she, like, cocks her head and had forgotten. Like, she doesn't, I think, like, Maggie doesn't think of it that way, you know? And she's like, oh, yeah, I guess, like, technically it was. She kind of just shrugs and shakes her head.
Should we start moving back there now?
She says,
Are we
"Yeah."
going to train Emerson, or are we just going to throw them back into the Matrix?
We should ask her what she wants to do first, yes?
That was implied, Haywire.
I feel like Jello, but if I can help, I'd be happy to.
Wait,
And,
so is Emerson out of bath time, or are they
Yeah,
still?
so-
Or is she still alive?
Yeah, I think, like, that's probably just kind of a short-term transitionary thing.
Mhm.
So she's well, capable of getting up, moving around, simple tasks, nothing too, strenuous, obviously. But she can move about the ship and get familiar with where everything's at. Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure because I thought it'd be kind of awkward if we're sitting there and she's stuck in bath time. We're like, "Hey, we're deciding your future."
We're all just standing around her.
Hey, let's drag this lady over to a plug and plug her into the wall.
So you want to do field work?
Hayden just
All
says
right.
we could just keep her out of trouble.
Hayden, we just dropped a building on someone's head. I think that's a bit out of the question.
You see Maggie kind of tapping on the keyboard, and then a moment later, she says, "Oh, it does look like there's some activity in the town." And she just kind of looks over the area and says, "It looks like they're maybe holding some sort of like town hall meeting in the next hour or two."
I feel like I could handle that.
I mean, we can't wear our usual outfits, but yeah, I think we could handle it.
Emerson, what can you tell us about those people you were meeting with?
They were military. They were interested in my research. Honestly, we didn't talk very much before you folks showed up.
I just didn't have much time. and they were Air Force officials, so to some extent, you imagine that they're cooperating with law enforcement at the moment. Although they did slink out of that place very quickly, and they did not make much effort to help anyone.
I'm not sure that Emerson knows whether or not they survived. So
Sure, yeah.
Did they tell you where they were located?
They did not.
They did not. They did give me the name of like the place they were working out of, though, right?
Yeah, so they called it, what did they call it? The Rainbow Ranch, but you imagine that that's kind of like a nickname that obviously can't be like the actual Air Force installation. They also mentioned that they're kind of like transitioning between Air Force and Space Force, and they don't really want to talk about that very much. It seems like they don't have a very good, outlook on that whole situation. But yeah, so you imagine that they have some sort of Air Force installation nearby. But they called it Rainbow Ranch.
Yeah, I don't know exactly where they're located, but we could probably track them down. Their Air Force.
Yeah, and I mean, I imagine you have contact details because you were in communication with them.
Yeah.
They were getting you over here. So you have a phone number and an email associated with them for sure.
Okay, well, I'm not entirely unconvinced they're not involved with this whole thing.
It seems strange timing.
I would agree.
I don't know. I think they were more after Gray than anything like that.
Yeah, people's.
Maggie, she says, I'm working on, and she like is furiously coding over in the corner for the remainder of the conversation. She says, I'm working on a device that should be able to give us some idea of what interference Gray was talking about. I don't know that we'll be able to find a source, but it'll at least be a start. And you see her, she's like modeling some sort of strange handheld kind of cube-like device that should be able to scan to some extent.
I'm wondering, because if we could get our hands on something like that, we could get rid of less than friendly agents with it. That could be a game changer.
Maggie furiously nods, like without making eye contact, but she's just like nodding in the corner.
It didn't seem to prevent him from coming there, it was just him respawning.
Right. Yes.
Which is useful because that'd give us a head start to run for the agents.
Maggie says, yeah, you could deploy it, wherever we're headed. I don't know what kind of range we're talking about, but...
We could have full meetings in the Matrix without the agents being able to get there. That could be insanely useful.
And she kind of looks at the ceiling and says, do you think he's physically incapable of inhabiting a host, or do you think it just messed with the perception algorithms?
Wouldn't we be able to see it? Like, regardless, because we're untethered and all that.
She kind of frowns and cocks her head and says, well, I don't know. I mean, we can't necessarily see like radio transmissions. We know they're there. I mean, I guess you could try to see radio transmissions. And she kind of like gets lost in whether you would be able to like will yourself into reading, text messages in the air as they pass by. Like,
yeah, that would be so cool.
She says, listen, I'm not supposed to tell you can't do things. So let's say that, yes, we should absolutely be able to see whatever this interference is.
Got it. Well, I mean, I think our best option is to go be folksy, unless anyone else wants to do something.
Mag says, I imagine there's probably going to be press there. I could work you guys up some press badges or something like that.
case, Hayden, I'm assigning you to keep track of Emerson, alright? Don't let her out of your sight.
She just gives you a thumbs up.
Dino kind of leans over to Haywire. Haywire, is that the best idea, friend?
Well, assuming she's listened to my lessons, then that would be the best way of keeping both of them out of danger and together.
I think Emerson, she comes over to you and she says, okay, I'm going to look out for you. I have to warn you, though, my peripheral vision's not great. Also, like, after sunset, also just generally not great in anywhere. So, you know, if anything happens, just maybe grab my elbow or I'll grab your elbow. It'll work out.
Okay, you two watch each other.
Okay, I
Sure.
like that.
Hayden nods.
Yeah. Sounds good.
And I think she also says, I lost my gun when the building collapsed, so I'm gonna need a new gun, Maggie. And she, like, gives her finger guns.
Hey, Hayden, the gun's not real.
She just kind of nods, thinking about that.
Has anybody given Emerson the whole if you die in the Matrix, you die in real life talk?
No.
I don't think we've given any of the talks, but Haywire, would you like to give that little talk?
Fire's not good at talks. But if you want me to spook her to death, sure.
All right, I'll give the cliff notes. All right, so if your Matrix form dies in the Matrix, you are dead in this world. There's no respawns, nothing like that. It's complicated, something medical jargon. Long story short, don't die.
That's sort of how I expected life to work in general.
Hayden's like, yeah, me too. Like, it didn't actually... They like, everybody that tells me that keeps acting like I should, like, this should be a revelation, but, like, those were the rules I was operating under already. Like, if you die, you die for real. Like, that's just how I lived before.
Yes, true, except now you're in the real world. He says, like, motioning to the room around them. You die here as well. Beforehand, you didn't know any of this existed.
That's true.
Well, that's true, but functionally there's no difference.
And, like, Emerson, like, you kind of did believe that before. Like, you kind of have believed in simulation theory.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm not surprised. Honestly, I'm still processing the gun thing. Canada, different. I'm not gonna need one, am I?
Have you ever fired one before?
Does super soakers count?
No.
Hayden shrugs like, yes, it does to her, but she knows that's not the answer.
You said you have no combat training, right?
None.
Hayden says, well, the run and hide tactic worked for her last night, so...
Sure, you are smart, so you can use that to your advantage.
And if you want it, we can help you at least learn some self-defense.
Hayden says,
Yeah.
it's very concerning that, and she points at Haywire and Dino, it's very concerning that you both seem to assume that we're gonna get shot at.
You do remember what happened in the diner, right? Haywire didn't just collapse the building for funsy onesies.
She, like, nods, and she's like, well, is it, like, you guys are clearly used to getting shot at, but for us, it's like, this is the first time I've ever been shot at. Other than the ducks, obviously, but those don't count.
Haywire's
I think
gonna... Oh, sorry. You go for it.
Oh, I was gonna say, I think that's the first time I've seen a gun in real life, or not real life.
And hey, was that sass aimed towards my ducks?
No, not sass. I mean, it just, but like they weren't real ducks, you know what I mean? And not in the sense that, because, like, simulation ducks are still not real ducks. But mobster ducks aren't real simulation ducks. It just kind of gets lost. It's Inception, but for ducks. And then Maggie says over in the corner, they announced like a town hall meeting, but they're actually just at a local restaurant. I don't really understand what's happening. And she says there's like a couple people gathering.
What's the population of the town?
Yeah, roughly 200 to 400, depending on the season, she says.
There's your answer.
She's like, but they have like a town hall, like they have a city hall building, but... And then she kind of like clicks a couple extra keys and she's like, yeah, the mayor is just leaving City Hall and going to a restaurant and everyone's following her. I don't... And she just
Why would you ever hold a meeting at a town hall when you could hold a meeting at a restaurant?
She like agrees with that, I guess.
There's food at a restaurant.
Does that mean we can't kick in the door saying we're the press?
I was going to say, does press seem a little overboard?
And then you see Maggie, she kind of zooms in, and things on her screen go from kind of a satellite view to that kind of raining code view. And she clearly is kind of searching the crowd as they move kind of down the street. And she says, oh, there's at least like 2 people there with press badges. The rest look just like town folk. And she says, there's a couple sheriffs, it looks like. Ooh, somebody died. And then came back.
On the other hand, it does give us another excuse to be there. We're hungry.
Maggie says, like, I just think it might be bad to show up in town as strangers the night after strangers showed up in town and destroyed a building. Like, we should at least maybe go in as law enforcement or press or, you know, something. And then she goes, oh no, I wonder if that waitress survived. 'Cause she saw all of you.
Are you suggesting we silence the waitress? Because that seems to be a bridge too far.
She's like, whoa, no, it just is inconvenient if she survived. I know that seems callous. I would prefer it if she survived, but...
I mean, we could pull off press pretty well, I think.
My backup suggestion would just be health inspectors with bad timing.
You can take an adversity die. That's a great fucking idea.
Or the age-old pizza trick. Delivering pizza to a restaurant.
That was a previous strategy in delivering pizza to a restaurant. In our sci-fi game, that's how they tried to enter a building. Though it actually ended up working, surprisingly. So, I don't know. Maybe that would work too.
Spacers lasagna. Ugh.
Oh. Why is it moving? So, we going with press?
I vote press, yeah.
Sounds good.
Alright, so she whips you up some press badges. Does anybody have a preferred, you know, cover name? She could just make you some some generic sounding names, but if anybody has a good pun, I'll give you adversity die for it.
I can't make puns that quickly.
I'm just
Woody
stalling.
Bernstein.
I would like to be Bill Gates.
Okay. All right.
My full name is Woodward J. Bernstein. Haha.
All right. Let me see here.
Full name is Mike Hunt.
Oh no! How? Oh no! How unlucky of you. Let's see. So, where did that go? Here we are. So Emerson, what this process is like is they, help you over to kind of the central chamber of the ship. There's a circular setup of chairs that kind of lean back. In the center, there's kind of a wall of screens in a circle. Maggie hops into the middle of those and starts pressing keys. A moment later, one by one, she comes over to each of you in a chair and slides basically a cable into the base of your skull, into a port there. It feels kind of cold at first, and you hear and kind of feel metal scraping against metal at the base of your skull. And then a moment later, that coldness turns to kind of a warmness, and it gets hotter and hotter until it's almost a burning sensation, almost uncomfortable. Your vision starts to kind of brighten until it's kind of whited out almost, and the lights become unbearable, and eventually you just see white. You close your eyes to try to alleviate this, and you realize the light is under your eyelids as well. You can't escape it. You feel as if the chair under you is kind of melting away, and you almost feel like you're going to slide out of it through the floor. A falling sensation hits you, and then a moment later you feel kind of the tap of your feet onto some sort of hard surface. Your vision kind of dims until you can see again. And each of you is standing in the construct. It's basically a loading stage of sorts. The ground is kind of a polished white kind of stone. The walls are black curtains from the floor to ceiling, kind of hedging you in. And then a moment later, you see kind of falling in from above is kind of like a workstation. Each kind of section is different based on which character it's for. We discussed like Haywire. You probably have, along with wardrobe, you have things like swords, staves, probably a couple guitar cases with varying stickerage if you're a sticker. I feel like she's a sticker person. Is she a sticker person?
She is.
Okay.
Yes.
Dino, what does your workstation look like?
An odd assortment of clothing, makeup, hair supplies.
I like it.
No weapons.
Box dye.
No weapon.
At home hair dye. Hayden's is just a desk. In the middle is a pack of cigarettes and a lighter, and then next to that is a small revolver. She wanders over and pockets both of those things. Your desk comes in. It looks identical or thereabouts to your work desk, even down to like, you have a desk that you work on for many years. There's going to be like accidents where like, something gets spilled here, or like there's a little bit of damage from like, a pen or something over here. Or maybe somebody wrote something over here. All of those little mementos that you're used to back home are on this desk. It's your desk, as far as you can tell. The only thing on it at the moment is the data and research that you gave to Maggie earlier. So it's kind of empty other than that.
I think Emerson just like takes a minute to like go over the desk and like check the little details, just make sure that they're all there.
Oh, they're for sure all there. Yeah. Do you have anything, specific in mind?
I feel like mainly it's just like stains from like having spilled things and scratches and scuffs and things, but maybe like a sticker that Jade put on there once upon a time that I was mad about at the time, but is kind of like refreshing to see in the moment.
And I think like in a centrally located kind of stainless steel table is press passes for each of you with a photo, the press scrawled across the top, and then a fake name of your choosing or Maggie's choosing. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Oh, and then there's also kind of a little device, little handheld device. It's got a little screen readout on it and a couple buttons. There's just one of them sitting there. So, and this is the device that Maggie cooked up to try to, scan for whatever this interference is. Who do you think should take that?
Definitely not Dino, I can say that right now.
Don't put any devices near me.
That's fair. So Emerson, Hayden doesn't go for it immediately, and they just kind of start wandering off, so that maybe they just leave it for you.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Okay.
Since the smart...
You look it over. Just give me a technology and mind roll for me.
I can do that.
Just to get a glance of it.
It's 16.
Okay. Yeah, 16 is pretty good. So it's a very rugged device. It's definitely kind of that it's designed to like be dropped frequently. It looks like it might come from like a construction site or something. And it's got plenty of scuffs on it already and damage, but it's still running. You hit the power button, it seems to boot up and kind of flash. And then basically the only buttons on it you see are buttons with little symbols, and very quickly you realize what a lot of these buttons are for. But there's things like, a Wi-Fi button to search for Wi-Fi in the area. There's a radio button to like scan radio waves. There's even like a light-based like frequency meter for light, like ultraviolet rays. There's a button for radiation, and it starts to tick like a Geiger counter if you press that one. And I imagine that there's ones that, buttons that I haven't even thought of in the moment. So basically anything that you would want to scan for, there's a button for it. You're not sure exactly how in-depth the actual like readout is going to be, and like what kind of information you can get from it, but at the very least is going to give you some data on what's in the air around you.
Neat.
So then the group kind of moves, and suddenly you either you missed it before, didn't look that direction, or something has changed. You see over on one kind of curtained wall is a opening, and the group moves through it. In the center of this kind of square, fairly small room, maybe 20 feet by 20 feet, is a campfire. You can smell it, you can hear it crackling, it's illuminating the room. And there's seats around it, just log seats. Each of you takes a position on a log, and Emerson, you just kind of take their lead. Each of them kind of just gets comfy and closes their eyes. Hayden kind of sprawls out across hers rather than sitting on it, and almost like she's going to sleep. You guys close your eyes, and you have a very similar sensation to when you entered the chair. You feel a kind of like the ground melt out from under you, a falling sensation, and then a moment later, your feet hit the carpeted floor of your motel room, one by one. You can hear in the room there's the ringing of the landline that you guys have just apparated out of. Dino, you set it back on the receiver. Click a few buttons on the computer, it powers down. and you find yourself in that very oddly decorated motel room. I don't know if you remember it, but the sheets or the comforter was like had animal print, but like a lot of different kinds of animal print. It was like zebra,
Yeah.
cheetah. Yeah.
Who chose Safari Chic for this? Ugh.
Emerson, the last time you were in this room, you were tripping really hard. Luckily, this time, you know, it looks normal. The giraffes and the paintings aren't moving. Haywire, there's not an old man trying to convince you to take medicine on the
I
TV.
appreciate that.
It's off. Oh. Somebody's killing bugs. So you guys can head into town. You look out the window. Your Audi is sitting out front. She's loaded that in for you. Probably swap the license plates just in case. Anybody got a picture of yours from the previous night's fun? You guys can head into town if you like, or you can hang out, I guess.
Yeah, screw the mission. Let's just go take a hike.
Fuck it, yeah.
Absolutely
Go
could.
find Bigfoot.
It's not Bigfoot season though.
Yeah, it's
How do
winter.
you know?
Yeah, maybe they prefer winter. Maybe they're the most active. Maybe they
Why
hibernate in
isn't
summer.
the Bigfoot festival in winter?
The reason
this
they
ends up
haven't
and we're
found
chasing
him,
Bigfoot, I'm
obviously.
leaving.
It's because they keep scheduling the Bigfoot festival,
during
not
spring
the
and summer.
winter.
Yeah.
It's clearly what it is.
I'm sorry, are the four of us going Bigfoot hunting now? Because I'm all there to go running around the woods screaming my head off.
Call it team building.
Uh-huh.
I mean, hell, if those hillbillies can try to find Bigfoot, so can we.
Absolutely.
I think, well, first of all, Dino's wearing a very, what he thinks is quote-unquote folksy, a folksy outfit. A flannel shirt for some reason, a hat that does not fit him whatsoever, and blue jeans, because apparently that's what he thinks folksy people wear.
Folksy people are lumberjacks?
Do keep in mind that Dino grew up in Los Angeles and didn't leave till he was 18, so he's a bit warped.
You're just dressed like a Canadian, so this doesn't register at all to Emerson.
Mm.
So yeah, guys,
Right.
hop in a car, head into town. Kind of downhill from you. As you roll into town, you do see there's, you know, maybe a couple dozen people walking down the main street. They enter what's called Fifth Avenue Bar and Grill. Seems like it's kind of a gathering of town officials. You can see from the outside, you know, through the window that looks like the sheriff and maybe the mayor, who Maggie mentioned before, as a sitting kind of up against the back wall at a table that they've kind of moved to have this event. And then there's various people sitting throughout the restaurant, standing at the back of the room, or front of the room, rather. So you guys can either, you know, push through the crowd and sit, or you can just kind of stand at the back, whichever you prefer.
Dino's pushing towards the front.
What about everybody else?
Yeah, we're press, so we're assholes, right? I guess I'll push to the front.
Okay. So yeah, you guys kind of separate the crowd, grab a table. A moment later, the mayor woman just stands up and kind of quiets the crowd and says, so I know we all have a lot of questions about, gunfire last night. In a moment here, I'll hand things over to the sheriff, but I just want to remind everybody that, everybody here is doing their best to figure out what's going on. If anybody has any information, obviously come forward. I just want to stress that this is not the norm here, and we don't want it to become the norm here. We're not some crime-ridden city. So just be kind and remember that all of us here, we have the town's best interest at heart. She just sits down. Sheriff stands up. He seems to be the one that all the other sheriffs are looking to. He's kind of middle-aged, balding a little bit. He's got a mustache and some glasses. He has a little notepad in front of him. And then each of you could give me, let's do like an awareness mind roll for me, just to see who you notice amongst the crowd. So everybody just, a little awareness in mind.
Sir.
16. I almost exploded twice. Rip me.
That explodes. 21.
Okay.
An 8.
Okay, so Haywire, at an 8, I think, you're looking for guns. You're looking for any danger. As far as that's concerned, you don't notice anybody of specific interest. The sheriffs are obviously armed. You're assuming, because this is kind of a rural area, kind of off the beaten track, there might be some people carrying in here, but nobody that, kind of is a red flag. We mentioned, I think, last session that a lot of the commandos had a very specific look. They were all kind of nondescript white men with brown hair that, while not identical, could be like, brothers, cousins, something like that. You don't see anybody here that really has that vibe, so you're not, worried that this place is going to get shot up at the moment. I think it's reasonable that you would be, kind of position yourself so you can see out the front window just to make sure nothing pulls up. Again, I don't think you're going to fall for that one again. But yeah, so nothing really jumping out at you at first. Emerson, what you notice is the 2 Air Force officials that you spoke with. They're actually kind of sitting next to the sheriffs off in one corner, just kind of staying quiet and listening at the moment. So you at least recognize them. You're trying to grab their eye line as best you can, but they are talking with the sheriffs or just kind of listening. So you have trouble catching their attention before this kind of starts. So you're left in this awkward kind of like, do I look at the sheriff? Do I look at them? Like, you're not really sure. And then Dino, you immediately pick up on the 2 other press badges in the room. There's maybe 30 to 40-year-old woman, little heavy set, kind of dirty blonde hair. She has a press badge and a little, spiral notepad, and she's taking notes. And then there's kind of an older gentleman. She's standing, by the way, and kind of off to the side of the room, but like really kind of intensely staring. She seems like a very uptight person, maybe. And then you see another man kind of sitting close by her, but sitting at a table, kind of relaxed. Middle-aged man, kind of shaggy gray-brown hair, a beard, glasses. And he's also kind of taking notes, but in a lazier fashion. So you,
all right.
At least pick them out that these are the press individuals that you saw. You can even read the woman's with something called the Selkirk Sun. I'm forgetting the names of these places. Let me find it in my notes here. Let's see. Where are you? Yeah, so the woman is with an outfit called the Selkirk Sun, and then the man, his press badge is just kind of sitting on the table. You get a glance at it as you're walking in. He works for something called the Miner. neither of these are national publications, so you're thinking that they're at least local, maybe Washington State, or maybe just this county. You're not really sure. But they don't ring any bells, so these aren't, important people, to say the least. And I'm trying to think if there's anybody else in the room that's of note. And then kind of late entering, just as the speech is starting haywire, I should mention, you see a young woman walk in, maybe, in her early 20s. She has a hoodie on with the hood up and a beanie. She has a little, low pony, pigtails hanging out of her hoodie. They're kind of frayed and crazy. Coke bottle glasses. And she kind of awkwardly moves through the crowd and stands in a corner. But the thing that kind of makes her of interest to you is that she's carrying a saw, like a hand saw, metal with a wooden handle, and everybody doesn't really pay attention to her. And this is an odd occurrence, but everybody seems comfortable and to not really notice. So it's just notable. And that technically is a weapon, but nobody is panicking, so maybe this is normal for them. I don't know.
Hey Justin, is this supposed to be SawCon?
Who? I don't know who that is.
SawCon D's nuts!
No! No! I'm taking adversity dice. I'm taking adversity dice.
You can take all the adversity that you want. I got you,
God
man.
damn it.
What is the Matrix equivalent of rocks fall and you die?
Yeah. We just flip the off switch. What if I wish I could hit a button. I wish I could hit a button and all of our computers turn off. That's what I wish.
We're all just deleted.
Yeah, your power goes out.
Well, be careful what you wish for. It's been real stormy recently.
Yeah, that's very true. And Dino, another late entry to the room. Man, maybe pushing 60, receding hairline, trench coat. Smells like alcohol. He starts to take notes as well, but he has a kind of a strange vibe. He's clearly not a local to your eye, and you notice that he has some sort of credentials hanging around his neck. But it's one that you're not familiar with, and it's kind of in a leather pouch, so it's not visible. But he's clearly not a just townsfolk. So the sheriff kind of grabs the attention of the room. He says, so very quickly, I'll just go over the facts. Last night, late in the evening, some out-of-towners arrived at the diner. They took a seat, ordered food. A moment later, 2 black SUVs arrived. Men got out of them and opened fire on the building with automatic weapons. Denise was struck several times, though she's down in Spokane at the hospital in critical condition, but stable for the moment. If I have any updates on that, I'll release that as soon as we have permission from her husband. The subjects that were inside the building seem to have survived. We're not sure if they are injured. They haven't shown up at any local hospitals. They fled in a black sedan to the north. We weren't able to locate them. The assailants, several of them were killed in the collapse of the building. At the moment, we don't believe any explosive or incendiary devices were used. We're not entirely sure why the building collapsed at the moment, but we're investigating, and we have architecture experts coming to take a look at the ruins. The assailants, some number of them survived the encounter. They retrieved any bodies that were in the building and then fled in their SUVs to the south. Sheriffs pursued, but we lost them in the woods to the west and east. They split as they traveled south, and we weren't able to keep up with them, unfortunately. Two individuals that were in the building were, and he points over to the Air Force, were Captain Peth and Major Boone, and they kind of nod as they're pointed out, and the crowd seems to nod at them like they know these men, like, so at least there's some familiarity in the community. They were there meeting a scientist by the name of Emerson Miller. We were attempting to get a photo to show you all, but for some reason we weren't able to locate any online. He kind of gives a description of Emerson, and he says she was not believed to be involved with the other subjects that night, but was caught in the crossfire. She's at the moment missing. We're unsure whether she was taken by the assailants or the subjects that were shot at. We're unsure if she just stumbled off into the night. She also has not shown up at any local hospitals. We have forensics looking into all of the blood that was left on scene to see if we can pinpoint who was injured and who wasn't. So just be on the lookout for bodies, be on the lookout for any blood, any weapons that were dumped, any vehicles show up on your properties that aren't authorized. We suggest you call us right away so that we can come out and take a look. If you do notice any suspicious people or recognize Emerson, we also suggest you call 911 immediately and have us come out and recover whatever we can. And he kind of pauses and looks over his notes. He says, I think that's all that I have at the moment. I'll just open up for any questions.
Dino's hand shoots up press dial.
Okay, so and the other two, so the woman raises her hand, the man doesn't at the moment. He points to the woman, and she says, what's her name again? I'm already forgetting. She says, Sonia Scuffler, Selkirk's son. I was just curious if your department thinks it's at all involved in the bikers that have been seen in the area as of recent. And she kind of trails off, and the sheriff kind of shakes his head no and says, no, we don't believe that it's any gang activity as far as we can tell. There was no paraphernalia found on scene, no drugs found on scene. And he gestures to two sheriffs that are kind of sitting to his left. He says, Anderson and Cooper did see two or three bikers leaving town to the south, maybe 30 minutes to an hour before the incident, but we think it's unrelated. And Dino, you can see this woman, she's just like furiously scribbling as much of this as she can, but she can't help but like have a frustrated and like, I don't know, there's like a disdain in her face for what's being said, like almost like she is not believing what this guy's saying, and she just starts kind of scribbling and goes quiet. And the sheriff then points at you, Dino.
Woody Bernstein, a Seattle stranger. Do we have any evidence about who the people in the black SUV were? The one who seemingly started the attack?
He just kind of nods and is looking over his notes. Go ahead and roll persuasion in mind for me.
Oh, okay. $18.
He kind of nods and says, beyond just the basic descriptions of the black SUVs, no one on scene was able to record or remember license plates. So as far as the vehicles are concerned, we weren't able to gain any information there unless they show up abandoned somewhere. As far as the identities of the subjects, again, forensics is working on any blood analysis or fingerprints that we can recover. Based on Captain and Major's eyewitness testimony, what we can gather is that they used fully automatic weapons, which again are illegal in the state. Low caliber as far as we can tell, so they'd be in the submachine gun category. Also based on their eyewitness testimony, they were carrying sidearms, pistols, well outfitted in tactical gear. We've been in, again, contact with various military officials. None of them have claimed responsibility for it. No terrorist organizations have claimed responsibility for it. So we're, at the moment, don't have much more to go on than that. We, of course, are also running ballistics. If anything does come back on that, and it's pertinent to release that to the public, we'll, of course, make a press release on that. And then he just kind of, he kind of pauses just to think if there's anything else that might be useful there. He says, unfortunately, isn't much CCTV or security camera footage in the surrounding area, so we weren't able to get anything like that. We've been canvassing for any trail cams that anybody has in the area where the assailants fled. So if you do, and he just kind of gestures to the crowd now, if you do have any trail cams up or any doorbell cameras or anything like that that would be useful, please get in contact with our office and we'll take a look at those. And then the man that entered kind of late that smelled like alcohol, he raises his hand and the sheriff points at him and he says, he doesn't give a name, but he just identifies himself as a insurance investigator. And he says, will the scene be available for observation, or is it still going to be cordoned off pending investigation? And the sheriff says, we're going to keep that locked down for the remainder of the week, likely, so you won't have direct access to it until our experts come out to investigate whether the building was sabotaged in some way. Again, we have no reason to believe that there was an explosive device or any incendiary devices. So we're just kind of at a loss there until we have our experts in. You're welcome to liaison with us, and we can give you a bird's eye view of the property, but you won't be able to enter the premises until we clear it. And the insurance investigator kind of nods politely and leaves, but you can tell that he's angered by that. He's not content with that situation, and he just leaves. I'm trying to think if there'd be any other questions. If you have questions, please shoot.
I guess Haywire would raise her hand.
He points at you.
Have you ever seen an attack like this before, or do you think this is going to happen again?
he kind of nods his way through that, and he says, "This kind of violence we've never seen in this community. I don't plan to allow that to be a common occurrence. So we're going to do everything in our power to bring these people to justice, make sure this doesn't happen again. And I assure you, we will gain ground quickly." And then, so the gentleman sitting at the table that's also press, he's just kind of lazily taking notes throughout this process. And I'm trying to think if there's anything that he would even want to ask.
Well, Wood Bernstein, master reporter, has something.
Oh, yeah, go ahead. So he points at you.
Donna is in. Wood Bernstein again. Do you have any descriptions of the outsiders? Something that we should be looking for?
He kind of nods and says, Captain Kirk and Major Boone, unfortunately, weren't confident in their ability to identify the subjects. The only other person on scene was Denise again, though she's down in Spokane at a hospital and is not in speaking condition. So we're interested to get her view of things as she directly interacted with the subjects. What Captain Kirk and Major Boone were able to confirm was that there was one male around 40 years old, right around maybe 6 foot to 6'4", was wearing a black suit and tie. Beyond that, there were 3 other subjects that were sitting at a table with him. They believe that it was 2 females and 1 male, but again, they were not confident in providing any other descriptive terms.
Sheriff, sorry. Follow-up question. Do you think there's going to be another attack? Should the people of this good town be afraid?
He again is shaking his head and says, "No, we're having Anderson and Deputy Sheriff Anderson and River. They're going to be on scene throughout the coming weeks. They'll be patrolling the town together and separately, depending on what time of day it is. So no, we don't expect that there will be any further attacks. Again, because we don't have a motive, it's kind of hard to foresee anything happening in the future. But no, we don't plan to allow this to come to pass again." And Haywire, you can see over in the corner, you just kind of take a glance at the room. The girl with the saw, she's staring directly at all of you now.
I'd say I'm not used to this.
And she kind of she goes between the lot of you. It's not like she's only staring at you, but she seems more wrapped up in watching you than anything else in the room.
Alright, well, if she stares at Haywire, Haywire will stare back at her.
Okay, yeah, and she just holds the stare. It's very uncomfortable.
Well, for her, maybe.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think. I think the mayor kind of steps in and says, throughout the coming days, we'll be holding this same sort of setup with any additional information. If that comes out, I'll be taking questions if you have any throughout the day during my lunch hours. And then...
Dino raises his hand again.
Okay. And she just finishes. We're also holding church services, so you're all welcome to come and share the burden, as it were. And then the sheriff points at you, Dinah.
My question is actually for the mayor. Madam Mayor, do you think that this is because of people coming into the town? Do you think it's local? I understand what the sheriff thinks. I'm more curious about your own opinion, Madam Mayor.
She kind of nods and says, she says, well, it's a very tough question. Of course, we want to be, welcoming. I know that times have been tough after the mine shut down, especially with the railroad closure in the last few years here. Even tourism has really taken a hit during the summer months. We, of course, again, want to be welcoming and kind to everyone coming in. I'd like to just reaffirm that this is not the norm, that people coming into this town are not some sort of violent criminals. And she kind of points towards the crowd, and she's the kind of press crowd, as it were. And she says, I know that we've been concerned about the increase in drug-related crime in the area. I think that is likely associated with any kind of growth. And I think that any growing town is going to have growing pains like this. I think this is a very extreme example of that. And again, as the sheriff said, I don't think that this is a new norm, and I don't imagine that this is going to happen again. And then she kind of she checks her own notes and says, we are putting together a small donation to Denise and her husband. Again, because we haven't been able to speak with her, we don't know exactly if they have like insurance on the building or how exactly that works. But times are going to be a little tough over in that household, so any donations that you have and can give, we welcome. We'll be getting that money over to her just as soon as we can. And she kind of nods and sits down, and the sheriff says, any other questions? And then he says, any information? Kind of gesturing at the crowd, but also you guys, the other press don't offer any information or at the moment have any other questions that Justin can think of.
I think Emerson is just like aggressively avoiding looking at anybody right now. I've never been a missing person before.
You get used to it. I love when we both said it at the same time.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
Incredible.
Emerson, you're particularly kind of troubled by the fact that there's no photos of you online. Do you think that Emerson has social media?
I definitely had like LinkedIn, you know what I mean? Like even if I didn't really post photos on socials, I definitely had LinkedIn, and Jade definitely would have had like photos of us, even if there was no account to tag.
So you're aware of those photos existing, some of them public, some of them available through family members and friends. The idea that they can't get a photo of you is kind of strange to you.
Can one of you ask about my car?
I mean, you have a press badge. You could ask if you want.
See my car.
Yes, Mr. Sheriff. What about my car outside? It's like, what?
Madam Mayor, can I tell you how I kicked the ass of one of the thugs personally?
I put that guy's head through a glass window.
But isn't it cool that I totally destroyed that restaurant?
Yeah, you're looking for a bomb. Actually, you should be looking for a haywire.
You just take
she can do that, by the way.
Take the murder hobo route and collapse this building, too. You're like, let's clear the town out so that we don't have any other problems. Like,
No loose ends.
Gotta clear ads first. Like,
Isn't like that anymore. I'll have you know.
yeah. So Emerson, you can ask about Emerson Miller's car if you like.
I think there's just like too much anxiety right now
Okay.
to do that.
Yeah, and I think like you know that as you were coming in, it's not where it used to be, like where you parked. So you at least know that it was either stolen in the preceding, time, or they impounded it for investigation. I don't think that they would just mention it unless asked, but you imagine it's part of the investigation. They knew you were there to meet Air Force people. They knew that the Air Force people were paying for your travel, so it's reasonable to believe that they're aware of it. And it's at least not
Makes
a point of curiosity at the moment. And I'm trying to just think if there's any other avenues. And I think that's it for the moment. I will mention the mayor introduces herself as Tara Leninger, I believe her name is. So you at least have that name. And I think that is it for the moment. The mayor will mention the community production of The Tempest that was supposed to go on tonight and for the remainder of the week. We're postponing that for at least the next week, just so we can adjust and get back to normal before we put on that community production.
Dino raises his hand. Are you saying that hell is empty and all the devils are here then, Madam Mayor?
She just stares at you and then moves on with the proceedings, not.
Philistine.
Yeah. And I think that's it for the moment. So the sheriff just reiterates, if you have any information or see anything concerning in the coming days, just don't hesitate to call 911 or even the non-emergency line. We'll have dispatchers around the clock, and again, Anderson and River will be in the area. If you see them, need to talk to them about anything, just don't hesitate to flag them down. And I guess just stay safe out there. And he concludes the meeting. People start to kind of either order food or file out or just kind of murmur and talk. You see the older kind of press journalist. He gets up and leaves. And the woman journalist kind of scowls at him as he leaves and then also leaves after him.
Yeah, I think,
Saw Girl is still just staring at you in the corner.
Well,
as people file out.
I'm gonna go over to her.
Can I do a little scan?
Yeah. So yeah,
Just-
go ahead and roll just technology in mind. Are you looking for something specific or just kind of hitting buttons?
I'm just hitting buttons, I think.
Okay.
Sorry, technology in mind?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Dino's going to start slowly inching away.
I think also, Emerson, you could roll awareness would be fair as well. Investigation would be fair.
Technology is one of my best.
Yeah, then go ahead.
Yeah, technology and investigation are the same for me. It's 15.
15. So you give a quick scan. Radio, of course, picks up and has a little readout of radio stations. And there's little, for each kind of entry on this list of radio stations, there's a little visualization of the music that's currently playing. It doesn't have a speaker, so it doesn't start playing those songs, but you can see a little a beat of whatever's being played on that station. You kind of flip through those. Those look pretty normal to you. Nothing of particular interest there. There's a couple different Wi-Fi in the area, for the different businesses. Nothing too out of the ordinary there. You said it was a 15-year-old? Was that correct? It was a 15? Is she dead? Is she muted?
What?
Did you roll a 15 on your roll?
Sorry. I misheard what you were saying,
Oh.
and I'm like,
I heard 15-year-old.
Oh,
that's
no.
what I heard, and I
Did
was
you...
like, what? Yeah.
15-year-old. Did you roll a 15?
Yes, I rolled a 15.
Okay.
I was like, I have no idea who's 15 years old.
Yeah, there's a 15-year-old button, and it picks up any 15-year-old in the vicinity. It gives the age of everyone around you. Like, no. So, yeah, at a 15, I think you do pick up a very low level, like, radiation signature. Something a little bit higher than you would expect of just kind of ambient radiation and sunlight. Not dangerous by any means, but just slightly higher. So it might be, comparable to like the radiation you get when you go up in a plane. Like it's a noticeable little jump, but like not dangerous. So out of the ordinary, but not dangerous.
Okay.
And Haywire, you just walk up to Saw Girl.
Yeah, I'm walking up to Saw Girl.
And if you just, kind of stop in front of her, she kind of, like, moves so that she's standing beside you and gives you, like, some side eye, almost like she's gonna, like almost like this is a low-key drug deal, like she's gonna, hand you drugs or something, but then she just stands there, and she just kind of goes back and forth between looking at you out of the side of her eye and, like, looking, at the center of the room. It doesn't say anything.
Well, Haywire is going to slowly lean over and say, "What do you want?"
God, okay. You could roll either persuasion or intimidation and mind for me.
I think I'm going to do intimidation because that's better for me. Surprisingly. Ooh. Mind?
Oh, yeah.
That is a 17.
17, that's pretty good. So she kind of looks at you and then looks back to the other three of them and then back to you, and she says, and she kind of whispers it so that nobody else can hear, but she says, I know you are walkers between worlds. You can see like I see. We are at the fulcrum. And then she just kind of stares at you.
What about us attracts the crazies?
Have you considered that you are the crazies?
That was the implication,
Okay,
yes.
okay.
Hold on, I'm trying so hard not to have Haywire just like bend a spoon or something. And
Do it. Listen to your inner dino. Do it.
yeah, I think Haywire's going to hold up a pen, put her fingers to her lips, and then try to bend it.
Okay, just with your mind.
Yeah.
though.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see. I'm gonna look to my cheat sheet here. Okay. So I'm thinking, yeah, so let's do a 5, 6. Yeah, so let's just do like a DC, let's call it a DC 6 roll. And go ahead and roll mind for me.
Oh boy. Okay, I have a chance. Okay, that's a 7.
7. So yeah, the pen just kind of wobbles and then bends and just kind of stays that way in a way that, a pen would just snap if you were to force it into that shape. And it just stays that way. She kind of looks at that, and you would, one, be used to people reacting with disbelief. Two, you would be, bordering on having an agent show up at this point. And so there's maybe just a touch of fear happening in you. She kind of takes this in stride. There's no disbelief in her face. There's no agent that appears. And she just kind of looks at it and looks back at you, and then you hear her wobble her saw, and it makes kind of that wobbly metal sound. And she puts it to her ear and then looks at you and says, "My saw wants to talk to you." And she wobbles it kind of in your direction.
Oh, yeah.
And then she just kind of looks at you expectantly, as if you were to hear something from her saw. You just hear a wobble noise, though.
Is Dino able to see this?
Yes.
He's not going to do. He's just going to watch this, kind of like in Haywire's peripheral. Like, if this goes south, I got you. But he's just staring into horror.
Okay.
Haywire will look sadly at her and say, "I haven't learned how to speak Saw."
She just kind of nods knowingly, and she says, "Can you repeat? I'll translate." And she wobbles it again, and listens. And she says, she leans over again and whispers. So Dino and the rest of you, I think you're seeing this happen, but you're not hearing the whispering part unless you really want to be listening in. But she whispers to you, "The man you came here with, the trees don't like him. He's not your friend."
Ah. Are you sure he's not my friend?
She nods, emphatically.
We've been together for a long time.
She looks at no, and she points at Dino and says, "No, not him, the other one."
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
And then she says, "He's lost."
I've known him for longer than I've known your Saw. Why should I trust you?
She kind of shrugs and makes a turtle frown. She says, I don't know, what does she say? She says, "I have no use for trust."
Haywire will nod and say, "Thank you for the advice."
She nods.
Stay safe.
She says, "You destroyed the best cup of coffee in town." And she storms out. Down
Yes, I'm sorry about that. Okay, bye.
He crosses the street towards the corner.
Okay. Haywire will
So-
walk back to her group.
Haywire, my dearest friend, is there something you'd like to tell us? Why was she waving a saw?
Oh, she's totally nuts.
All right, I'll bite. Why?
I don't know, some humans are like that.
Hayden just kind of nods. Yeah, that's true.
Fortunately, she might also be a little more than nuts.
As in our sort of nuts?
Somewhat. I would not say that we should engage with her further unless we truly have to.
Feel a little avoidant.
You think she said anything useful? Or
She doesn't want us to trust Agent Gray. Is it Agent Gray that we came with? Is that who she's talking about? I guess.
Yeah, you think so.
Yeah.
Unless there's some man that you came with that you're not aware of.
Men
look
around here? There goes Dino. I'm over
Oof.
here now.
Oh no.
I am Avon.
You're between worlds, as it were. He's back.
Did you hear what
You-
I said, Avon?
I did not. My Wi-Fi is all kinds of funny.
Okay, well, Haywire said she doesn't want us to trust Agent Gray.
Wait, we trust Gray? I thought we were just more using him because he's not trying to actively kill us.
Yes, that's a form of trust.
You guys kind of glance out the front window and you see Saw Girl is across the street. She's standing in front of a middle-aged man with like hair slicked back, black hair. He's in a suit, kind of agent adjacent. He doesn't kind of have a stick up his ass, but he definitely has like a very fed look to him. And then two sheriff's deputies are standing next to him. It's the ones that were gestured to as Anderson and River. They're standing with them as well, just across the street next to the movie theater, and they seem to be talking with this Saw Girl.
This town is truly warped.
I think that's an accurate assessment.
Do we want to walk the beats? You're like, yes, we're press people doing press things.
That seems prudent to me.
As you guys head out kind of street side, there's people walking about. To some extent, like, the town's activity is kind of going back to normal. You see people are kind of entering the movie theater. There's people, grabbing food. There's a grocery store right up this, street. You kind of see that payphone that you guys willed into existence again. Dino, that flyer is just kind of staring out at you. Up the street from you is a post office that, is getting used, a park to the east. And you do see probably that insurance investigator from earlier. He is standing in front of the rubble, and he's taking photos with kind of a long lens. And then everybody just roll awareness for me. Awareness in mind.
You and your rolling. God, what do you think this is?
Gosh, I hate games. They're so not fun.
So boring. I just want to sit here in a room and do nothing.
It's an 8 from me.
Okay.
22 from your boy.
Yikes.
I got an 8 also, so.
Okay. So Dino, you're the only one that notices. He is taking pictures, but he's doing so of a reflection off a window next door to the rubble. So you're at a 21. You beat him. Sorry, what did you roll? You rolled an 11.
I rolled a 22.
22. Let me see. Kids on bikes.
So perceptive.
22, and he rolled 11. So yeah, it's a 10 or higher. So because you beat him by such a large margin, at first you're not sure what he's taking pictures of, but for sure he's taking pictures of, in this reflection, everybody that's leaving the restaurant you're at. So at the moment, that's you. But you're assuming that he's been doing this, not specifically targeting you, but just, of everyone that's leaving the restaurant.
Oh no.
I'm not gonna make any. I'm just gonna motion to Haywire, follow me, but I'm not gonna say anything and just start walking over towards him.
Thank you.
And Emerson too, just kind of hey everybody, let's come on over here.
Hayden kind of follows. She just, keeps Emerson a step back from you two, and just lets you lead, but stays on your heels by, 3 hard steps. She could be at your back. So yeah, you just head across the street and up the sidewalk towards him.
Oh yeah, it's kind of like walking over towards them. Like, as soon as I'm within talking range, hey, didn't get your name, buddy. Wood Bernstein, Seattle stranger. Do you have time to talk?
So as he sees you guys kind of crossing the street, he's gonna go ahead and roll insight for me, and then Dino, go ahead and roll. I think deception or performance would be fair, and then mind for me. This might also be a spirit roll for you, so I feel like you could pick either of those.
I'm gonna do deception and mind.
Okay. Let's see here. And his insight is
Oh dear.
8 and d6. What'd you roll?
My D10 just exploded, so 19.
So I rolled 6. 6 is 12, and 5 is 17. He just missed you.
Get beaten.
So as you start to move directly towards him and then call out to him, there is a bit of he's like flustered for a moment. He kind of starts taking pictures of the rubble as you're crossing, and then kind of switches back to taking pictures in the reflection of the front door of the restaurant. And so it's clear that like he's a little bit flustered, not sure exactly how to play this, but he does turn and kind of look in your direction. He says, let's see here, let me bring up his info. He says, yeah, my name's Andrews. I'm just an insurance investigator for the structure insurance that the owners had. I don't know if there's any answers that I could give you that'd be worthwhile, but I'm sure I could listen.
Yeah, of course. I got a reporter's eye, you see. I'm good with this kind of stuff. I noticed, you're not as subtle with your pictures as you think there, buddy. I saw your reflection. Dennis goes straight for the throat. He isn't doing this dancing around acting thing.
Yeah, and he just says, he just kind of puts his hands up and says, you got me. We were concerned with the unanswered questions. It's my job to entertain the idea that maybe this is an insurance scam. So the company wants to ensure if we're paying out that this was a legitimate act of God.
A building collapsed, pal. I'm not in insurance, but I'm pretty sure that wasn't fraud.
He kind of
I think it had to be an act of God.
shrugs and nods his head and says, well, listen, I've been in the business for quite a few years. This is actually my last day. I'm retiring. But in my time, I've known quite a few little old ladies that lie. Destroy their own property just to make a buck. And he kind of gestures around him and says, listen, this isn't exactly a flourishing town. I can imagine many different reasons someone would. And he just kind of gestures to the rubble. He says, you're not, as a journalist, you're not suspicious that there was no explosive, no sabotage, nothing like that?
Wait, shit, there was no explosive? Hold on, I didn't hear that part. Dino pulls out his totally legitimate little notepad and starts, get his pencil out.
Maggie has coded this little notepad for you, and the first line just says, you're a fake. And then Maggie, signed Maggie.
Huh, looks like I already wrote my own note. Good. No explosive. That's a hot scoop.
He He like squints and is like, "Were you not?" And then he just like, "Were you not paying attention?" He just kind of trails off.
I'm a journalist. I listen to every other word. It's part of the job, buddy.
He kind of shrugs and nods. Haywire, just at a glance, you could tell that this guy has a gun on him. You know, maybe in the reflection or just the way he's standing. There's definitely a gun like tucked into the back of his waistband. Yeah.
If there was no explosion, wouldn't that point more towards an act of God?
He kind of thinks about that for a moment. He says, "Well, I mean, listen, it just doesn't exactly add up. The place gets shot up, but there was no like structural damage. It'd take a whole hell of a lot of bullets to bring an entire building down. Usually in collapses like this, you see some sort of fire. I mean, arson is the easiest way to bring a building down. So I admit that there's easier ways to bring a building down, but this just doesn't check out." And he kind of gestures back towards the restaurant. He says, "The sheriff is investigating, but in my experience, if they were actually investigating, they wouldn't have mentioned that. I think I don't imagine that they're going to figure out why this building came down."
Maybe gravity temporarily reverted itself.
He's like, "Yeah, that'd be something."
Right?
Yeah, it is. How silly.
Till I see evidence, I'm going to assume it was an act of God.
He kind of like chuckles and says, "That's just like a phrase. It's not. I mean, these were men. They shot the place up. It's not." And then he just kind of trails off. And then Emerson and Hayden, you do see back up the street, Saw Girl is talking to these sheriffs and this man in a suit. And she's pointing down the street at you, and the three of them kind of look down the street at you guys, and then back to Saw Girl, and they go back to their conversation.
I am a little concerned about the Saw Girl.
I think many
She
people are.
speaks to saws.
And you can tell that, like, now that people are kind of moving, they do give her, like, a wide berth. Like, they don't walk near her or, like, talk to her or, like, greet her. But they also aren't, like, running in panic, so it's clear, like, this is... Carrying around a saw and being weird is seemingly a normal thing for her in this community.
I just don't like that she's pointing us out.
Well, thank you for your help. Hey, you hear any gossip that might help my story? Obviously, I wasn't really listening. I need all the help I can get.
He kind of thinks and, like, rubs his chin, and he says, "I hear there's that, like, haunted hotel up the street. That's the best I got for you." And he just kind of smiles. It was, like, clearly a joke, but, like, that's his best
Dino was writing
guess
this
at
down.
this point.
It was a ghost that did this?
He, like, looks at you, and now he's not sure if you're joking, and he's like, "I mean, I hope she survives."
Insurance agent claims ghost destroys small town cafe. I can see it now.
He kind of, like, his eyes go wide, like, "I hope nobody prints that." And then he does go, "Sorry, and what did you say your publication was?"
The Seattle Stranger.
He kind of, like, nods, and he's like, "I'm not familiar." He's clearly not familiar. So he's, like, just a little bit suspicious, but, like, he doesn't push it.
It's a real newspaper.
That's their, like, tagline. It's like, "Seattle Stranger. It's a real newspaper." Like,
It's a real newspaper, and we do have someone named Woodward Bernstein on staff. That's part of the tagline.
Ah, exciting.
I love the idea of explaining yourself. Like, sorry, what paper did you work for? Seattle Stranger. It's a real paper. They do have someone with my name work there.
I am...
almost like a
I am
machine,
legit.
and then, like, everybody stares at Dinah. I am legit. Yeah. That's what legit people say. I am a real journalist. It says so on my ID.
I have journaled before. And I will journal again.
Can't you see by my massive typewriter that I have? I am a journalist.
Can I just like rerun another scan just like to compare it now that people have dispersed?
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead and roll that same roll again. Technology in mind, I believe it was.
Wire will scoot slightly away from the scanner.
Dino's gonna join it too.
What are you worried about?
Technology.
5G people?
I mean,
That's
like,
gonna be-
if you cause this thing to explode, he would want to not be near it. This checks out.
Enough.
And have you forgotten where we are and what we do?
It's gonna be a 17.
Okay. So yeah, all of the, the different scans that you ran before still kind of check out, but that radiation scan definitely comes back stronger than before. Still not at a dangerous level, but approaching dangerous level. And I think you've concluded now, with 2 data points at the very least, that it seems that the radiation signature is getting stronger the closer you are to the rubble.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm not gonna relay that while they're having a conversation with the
Insurance investigator.
Yeah.
Sure. I think Hayden at least can see that over your shoulder, and she probably doesn't know what those numbers and those units of measurement mean, but
Well, we've bothered you enough. I think we should let you go.
he just kind of nods and says, feel free, and he just hands you a business card. It just has his like a phone number on it. It has his name. It's Gavin Andrews. And let me take a peek at one
It's so white.
thing. Yeah, very nondescript. Fitting a insurance investigator.
Nondescript and has brown hair.
Yeah, not that nondescript. He's maybe 20 years older than the commandos were.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Just worried there for a second.
No.
Dino's business card, of course, he has one in his Woodward Bernstein persona.
Of course.
All it says is Woodward Bernstein, journalist. No contact information, nada. But it does have a watermark.
Yeah.
Let's see. So the company he works for is called Manifest Consolidation, is what it's called. It also has an address, 85 Livingston Street, Brooklyn, New York City, New York. And it has a company motto, which is Domus Nullius Pro Iulgium Sine.
Oh, hold on. I need that from my notes again.
I
What was
will.
that?
I will just put it in chat. Domibus.
Okay.
I'll put it in chat. Clearly Latin. Not sure what it means. I will leave you guys to figure that out on your
Hold on. I speak Latin.
Oh, you do.
Oh. But I took one Latin class in high
Okay,
school.
so this is translated by Justin, who didn't take Latin. So be kind. He's doing
I'm
his best.
sure you conjugated everything wrong. Don't worry.
Yes. Actually, I don't remember if I wrote this or if I stole it from somewhere. So
Google Translate San is not telling me a lot. I'm gonna hope to God that Maddie can translate this.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out which noun domus is.
House.
House,
Right.
yeah, I know that.
House. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Houses.
That was the one part that I knew.
Okay.
I know that Volcom is common.
House looks to be the subject of this, and also either the dative or ablative.
Just gonna nod my head like I understand that.
Latin takes forever to translate if you're not good at it, let me tell you.
My grandma can read and write that. I
Really?
just don't want to call her. Yeah,
That's
she went
cool.
to like a creepy nun boarding school, and they made them all learn it. She'd probably be mad.
My
if
uncle
she
can
heard me
speak
call it.
Klingon.
Arguably more useful.
I mean, one's a fun language, the other one that's been dead for centuries.
And as we're just in this pause here, you do see 3 motorcyclists kind of drive from the north down the main street and out southward. Just to
Another scoop. I'm not sure why Dino's journalist persona is a 1920s news guy, but he is.
I feel like that's in line with the Dino-isms. Mobster ducks and such. It probably plays really well. like it probably the reason that he picks that persona is the reason that it works for everyone.
Fuck is the verb in this sentence?
Don't ask me, I don't know. I don't even remember if I wrote it or if I stole it. The fact that it doesn't translate easily means that I probably wrote it myself. So yeah, the insurance investigator just goes back to, after handing that business card off, goes back to what he was doing before. He starts to take pictures of the rubble and then kind of is also sneaking photos of various townfolk going about their business now. Most of the people that have left have already, headed off, so he's not necessarily targeting the front of the restaurant anymore, but he does seem to just be generally gathering intel at this point. He'll even kind of move down the alleyway that's to the side and around the outside of the property, just avoiding any crime scene tape that is cordoning it off, but he does, try to get photos of all of the different angles.
It's like as close as I can get.
Well, it makes more sense than what Google Translate gave me. For reference, I did put into Google Translate, and this is what it got. Nobody's house for the common people without houses.
That's close.
Yours
yeah.
makes more sense.
It's something to do with not being a house unless it's a house for the people or something like that. I think it's hard to tell. There's no crowd without a house for the houses.
Is Sawgirl still screaming and still pointing at us to anybody?
So
who'll
she's not
notice her?
screaming. She just kind of gestured in your guys' direction. But no, they've gone back to conversating. They do at this angle you can kind of see that Anderson and River, the sheriffs, they kind of have a look on their face like everything that's being said to them is nonsense. But the man in the suit seems to be really engaged with her. And seems to be taking this conversation pretty seriously and pretty
Oh, there's another fucking crazy. They band together. It's the worst.
Is there anyone else who's hey, look at those people over there. They're weird looking, or is it just Sawgirl?
Just Sawgirl, as far as you can tell.
Hey,
I mean,
you're
people
weird
kind
looking.
of.
You're
I think that
beautiful.
people that walk by you probably do give you the good morning, but they don't really pay much attention to you.
We could check the haunted house. And I was going to say that when we're away from the insurance investigator.
Yeah, he's.
So
I assume you took a step away now at this point.
I should mention, I did a couple scans. There's some radiation happening. I don't know if that's normal when this kind of thing happens for you.
What kind of radiation?
Haywire, are you radioactive?
I didn't think so.
Haywire, you can just roll a science and mind for me to decide whether you've discovered this phenomenon before.
Well, that's a whole D4, so I'm gonna say probably not and roll it and get a 3.
So you haven't necessarily checked in on this phenomena. You're not sure if you're radioactive, but nobody's told you that. So this is news to you.
If I was radioactive, somebody would have told me that by now, right?
I mean, we could check. I can just scan you. Beep boop,
Huh?
you know?
Okay, go ahead and
Okay.
roll technology in mind. This could even be a science roll if science is better for you.
Mm.
Because there's a little bit of a, a scientific method at play here that could eliminate some things.
Science is my best skill. Mm. Sorry, that was science in mind.
Yes. Could also be spirit, I guess. Kind of checks out that this is your purpose in life.
I think my mind is better. 20.
20. Yeah. So you devise a very simple experiment. You tell Haywire to head across the street. You stand in the middle of the street, and because this detector doesn't give you like a direction, you just do 2 tests. You walk closer to Haywire, take a test, and you walk closer to the building and take a test. The radioactivity does seem stronger as you move towards the rubble, so Haywire is not actively radioactive. But as far as you can tell with the units of measurement, it is ionizing radiation, so it would be, this is the kind of thing that could get dangerous if it was, significant enough, lead to radioactive poisoning. If it were to really go like skyrocketing high, you'd have like the option for nuclear explosions and that sort of thing. You're nowhere near that level. This is very low level radiation. Again, kind of comparable to riding in a airplane or going up into like a high altitude plane.
Cool.
So
I'll wave.
Not super dangerous, but noticeable.
Yeah, I'll wave the Haywire back over and be like, you're all clear. The building.
Okay, good to know. Hey, can you check this for me? And then she'll hold up the pen that's bent.
Sure, that's a good idea.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, I think that the signature would be way lower. But it is like a noticeable little jump right in the, if you were to really hold that detector close to that pen, it would have just a very slight radioactivity to it. Again, not dangerous, more comparable to like spending an hour in the sun.
Yep. That's a little bit radioactive.
Oh,
But, I mean, so are bananas, so.
Hayden goes, what now? Bananas are radioactive?
Yeah, bananas are radioactive.
I've eaten so many bananas in my life. Am I gonna die?
No.
She starts like
No,
touching
no,
herself,
no.
but like not in a way that would give her any information.
I think Emerson goes into like an explanations about like actuarial science and like talking about like how many bananas you can eat before it starts to affect your life insurance.
she kind of Hayden goes like, yeah, like fish and mercury, right? That makes sense. She's kind of like, okay.
I think Haywire's like holding up her hands and looking at them and is like, Why is everything about me dangerous?
Dino's
Hayden goes-
attempting to look normal.
As everybody's having existential crises on the sidewalk. Hayden
Yeah,
goes,
so you have to.
to be fair, everyone's
go ahead.
dangerous, Haywire. And she like leans in and whispers, I have a gun right now. She's like,
You're so cute. Haywire looks at her and says, I am a gun.
that's pretty badass, she says.
And we are not trying to draw attention to ourselves.
Right. She like heads back kind of, towards your guys' car for the moment.
Your translation just dropped and it doesn't make any more fucking sense.
I have a translation in my notes, like for myself, and I'm loving this.
This is what it essentially says.
This is my puzzle, like my version of D&D puzzles. Like,
It's incorrect Latin.
oh, I love it. So I think we can just take maybe a bio break if anybody needs.
Back to
Brainstorm.
staring
and-
at this fucking Latin.
We'll get back to it in just a sec. That's a good company motto.
We're back. I was eating.
All right. So yeah, Hayden heads back to the car. You guys can head with her, or you can hang out. You can investigate other things. What's the plan?
I think Dino does kind of want to talk to the Saw Girl.
Okay. Yeah. So you can either kind of wait for her current conversation to end, or you can interrupt it, whichever you prefer.
I'll stand close enough to be noticeable, but not like, "Hey, talk to me."
Okay. Yeah, I think she kind of sees you moving over, and you pause, and you think that she quite literally just says, like, this conversation is over now, and she kind of parts them and walks through them and just walks straight up to you, and the two sheriffs are kind of like, what the and they kind of like gesture towards her like, what? And the man in the suit just kind of like waves them off, and he heads across the street. All three of them jump into a police cruiser and head up the block. But Saw Girl just kind of walks up to you and then again stands beside you and kind of like looks at you out of the side of her head, back and forth. And doesn't say anything.
Hi, you kind of... At this point, John just walks up. Woody Bernstein, Seattle Stranger. Do you have time to talk?
Yeah, go ahead and roll deception or performance, whichever is better, and mind for me.
$15. Not great, not terrible.
She shakes her head and she says, "You're not a reporter."
Yeah, of course I am. See, I got a card. Woodward Bernstein.
She shakes her head. That's not real.
All right, he pulled it. Tino's still following the act. He's just like, all right, whatever. He pulls out his notepad. Then what am I?
She kind of, her eyebrows kind of go up, and she kind of looks at you, like up and down. And she whispers something into her saw and like wobbles it and listens to it. I'm just trying to think how she would describe you.
Oh, Haywire wasn't joking about the saw thing. Uh-oh.
How would she describe you?
Haywire's gonna come over to make sure nothing bad happens.
She says, you are often not what people say you are. And she kind of like frowns.
Isn't that everyone, though?
She kind of thinks, yeah, I guess that's true.
Right, so I'm not you know what? No, I am a reporter. What do you think's going on here? Give me your scoop, miss. I don't think I caught your name.
Yeah, you could go ahead and roll me persuasion in mind to see whether she shares that with you.
$22. God, my D10 is exploding today.
What is her name? I wrote her name down. She's literally Saw Girl in my notes, but like she has a name. I know it. I remember.
Bobalina.
Where is it? Who has it? So I know her last name off the top of my head, so she just says, Lanterman. and you know that seems like a surname that she's going by. Sorry, was there another question there that I'm forgetting?
I know, that's all I was asking. Like, what's your name? So I'm like, hey, yeah, want to tell me who you are?
Yeah, she just says Lanterman.
And you don't know who I am, but you know I'm not a reporter, right? Is that what you're saying?
She kind of nods. My saw told me.
What else does your saw tell you? Here, can your saw tell me what my real name is?
She kind of wobbles it at you. And she says, no, it doesn't know you, it just sees you.
Dino just kind of gives the uh-oh look over at Haywire.
Nope.
You know, hey, does your saw know anything about what happened over at the diner, maybe?
She kind of thinks and like wobbles it again. This time she like wobbles it for a fairly long time. And she says, you know not what you walk through. And she like listens again and continues wobbling it and says, we are at the fulcrum here in this time. And she says, there are forces at work here that you're not aware of. Her eyes kind of like go wide, and she kind of points over towards the rubble, and you see there's a older man, roughly maybe 70. He's kind of in the midst of the rubble, has gone under the crime scene tape, and he has a broom, and he's like pushing rubble with the broom, and he's whistling. So like the lower half of his face kind of looks happy, like the he's kind of in a smiling, whistling kind of mood, but then his eyes and eyebrows are sad, and he's crying, and he's just kind of moving rubble around with this broom, almost like in a manic state. And the Anderson and River kind of are driving down the street, see this happening, they pull over right away, they jump out of the car, and they kind of corral him and say, you can't be here, this is a crime scene, I know. And they're trying to like calm him down and get him away, and he's not really fighting them, but if they like let him go at all, he does try to keep like sweeping. So they get him like corralled and off to the side and start to kind of calm him down, and he kind of breaks down and starts to cry, and they kind of hug him. And Saw Girl is just kind of pointing at him. And she'll, say, once you've kind of observed all this, she says, where there's smoke, there's fire. And you see he takes out, after he kind of weeps a little bit, that man puts the broom down, takes out like a cigarette and starts smoking it. And his hand's kind of shaking.
Your name isn't Morgan, is it?
No. It might have been an M name, because it is kind of ringing a bell, but I don't think it's Morgan. I'm drawing a blank on what it is. I'll have to find it in my notes later, but her last name's definitely Lanterman.
Is there anything your saw thinks we should know? Why am I asking about a saw? And yes, he has dropped the accent.
Wobbles it again. Go ahead and roll persuasion and mind for me.
Not great. 17.
Not great. It's like
for me,
very
my
high
dice
roll.
have every shame.
She just again wobbles her saw, And she says, gosh, how would she... See, I'm like having to like have a conversation as a crazy person is difficult because I know the information she wants to convey, but I then need to obfuscate it by several levels of metaphor.
Well, you're doing great so far.
Yeah.
What do we need to roll to get her to speak normal English?
very high.
What if we get her a better saw?
It's a very fine
Does a
saw.
buzzsaw sound better?
Is it the saw?
Get her a
But is-
chainsaw. That'll do it.
Are you particularly attached to this saw, or would any saw do?
I think Emerson has like sidled up at this point and is like idly curious about the saw.
Yeah, so you look over
Reading.
the saw. It looks like it definitely doesn't have any like brand on it, so you're imagining that it was handmade, but it's very well polished, almost to like a mirror finish. The teeth on it look like little crowns, like little 3-pointed crowns. And the handle is like wood and very like finely carved. Gosh, how would she say that? She says, you can feel it, right? The buzz? It's in the air like music. It's there. You just have to know what you're looking for. She says and she kind of points off eastward and kind of north. She says the mines and caves of this place, they hold a story. So do and she points towards the buildings. The structures do too. It's in the wood. It's in the metal. There's many spirits here, many people, more people than you see. And she like gestures around the street. And she says, "My saw, it holds many people." And she just kind of finishes wiggling it, and it just kind of goes silent.
Oh, Dino, old boy, where did we go wrong? All right. Well, thank you for your help.
She kind of like
Do I
she puts her hands over your mouth to like shush you, and she like gets in real close, kind of to your face, and then looks over at Emerson and looks at you and says, "There are other people here. There are other people here." And then she takes her hand away.
As in people like us or people in general? I'm confused.
She looks around and says, "Some they face downwards and others face upwards." And then she kind of like gestures and like to some kind of middle point in between. You have no idea what she's talking about, but she seems to think there's a point to all that.
If she's revealed to be some sort of like extremely powerful program, I might have a breakdown.
Maybe
Aylar's
she's
like nodding along.
maybe she's the extremely powerful program.
No, it's the saw. The saw is the program.
Very well could be.
Oh,
She'll just kind of look over at you, Emerson. She almost like hunches, like she's sneaking, and just kind of looks in your direction.
hello. Hi. What
She nods.
does your saw have anything to say about me?
She kind of looks you over. Let me just roll. He's killing it. She like looks you over and kind of straightens her glasses and wobbles the saw, She kind of sighs and like nods and like puts her hand on your shoulder, and says, "It's not your fault."
I feel like there's a few things that I would love to hear that about, and I'm sure this is not related to any of them. Out of curiosity, can I try the saw?
Yeah, I mean, do you ask her that, or do you reach for it, or how?
Yes. No, I'm just gonna ask very politely. Like, may I please try the saw?
She says, "Well, don't ask me." And she like holds out the saw to you, to like as if you're supposed to speak to the saw.
May I please speak with you directly?
And she like takes it back and wobbles it a little bit, and she nods and hands it to you. Like before you even have a chance to put your hands out, it's hanging in air, and you have to catch it, kind of.
Cool. I try to catch a falling saw.
And then go ahead and roll just awareness and mind for me. Actually, I think this is going to be a spirit, so roll spirit and mind, or spirit and awareness for me.
Spirit and awareness. Okay. Let's see how this goes. Oh, and that one goes. 17.
Yeah, so you kind of feel it. You can give it a wobble if you like. Nothing too enlightening comes of it, but what you do feel, strangely, is the metal is slightly warm to the touch. Again, polished to almost a mirror finish, but it's warm. And when you touch the handle, it's neither warm nor cold. It's the same temperature as your skin. And it's kind of strange because, if you were to close your eyes, you wouldn't be able to tell where your hand ends and the handle begins. Like, that's how perfectly in sync with your body temperature it is. It's a very strange feeling. It's almost like a phantom limb situation where when you grasp that handle, it's like you have like a longer hand now. And you take your hand away and that sensation kind of goes away slowly. But if you test it again, it comes back.
Can I ask her for a translation?
She like nods and you give it a wobble. She says, well, let me roll for the saw. And she kind of squints and is kind of listening to the saw for a moment, and then she'll say, my saw, it seems to think that you're rather unlucky. Stars don't often align for you. And she says, but I don't know. I don't like to think of it that way. Misalignment is just an alignment of another kind. And she kind of like shrugs.
Interesting. Well, thank you. That's a very nice saw. Can I ask you where you got it?
She kind of takes a step in and she says, it would like to introduce itself. It's gone by many names. It wants you to call it Bacchus. She kind of shrugs. I've told it that.
B?
And she like waits for you to introduce yourself to it, almost.
Dino's actively not introducing himself to a saw.
I refuse.
Haywire will step forward and introduce herself to the saw, except she will come very close to the saw and whisper so nobody else can hear it.
Yeah, the saw listens, as far as you can tell.
Sick.
Seems open to this information.
Mhm.
And then she, Emerson, do you introduce yourself to the saw?
Yeah.
Okay.
Ugh,
Yeah.
fine.
Just
Sarah, do your thing. Dino's just being bullied into this.
I think I just tell it my name, like, hi, I'm M.
Okay. So she.
Hello, Marcus. My name is Dino.
And she'll just look to you, Emerson, and says, I made it. It's a memento of my parents.
Well, it's some very fine work.
She kind of nods and says, I only really had one shot at it.
So uncomfortable.
Yeah, fixes her glasses and, like, pulls on her pigtails and her hood.
Have you always lived here?
And she kind of, like, hems and haws, and she's like, I wander.
And what do you do?
I wander.
That's what you're supposed to do?
I don't really think of it that way, but yeah, I guess.
Is there a role I can do to try and see if this is a program or just a weird human?
Yeah, yeah, I definitely think there should be a role. Let's see what it should be. So I think, there's various ways you could go about this, so we can maybe just brainstorm. But I think, like, the signs you would be looking out for is if there's, some sort of biological process that she doesn't live by, that she should be. There's obviously, like, if she had a working knowledge of agents and that sort of thing. So there's, like, also, like, a social aspect where it's like, is she connected to Agent Gray in some way? Like, you could try to figure it out that way. If you're just trying to kind of see, you could roll, like, awareness and mind to try to get, like, some sort of supernatural vision that would reveal something like that to you. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I mean, obviously, if with your experience, Haywire, if she can do some freaky shit, like, that tends to be program-esque. She's talking to a saw at this point. She seems to be very insightful as far as you can tell, but not necessarily supernatural. Like, you haven't seen anything necessarily supernatural.
I'm feeling supernatural, so I'm gonna try and do, what was it, mind plus awareness?
Yeah, mind and awareness, I think.
Oh my god. That's 25.
Okay. Yeah. You kind of stare at her with kind of the intent to see what's going on behind the scenes. I think she even kind of picks up on this, maybe mid-conversation, and she just kind of reaches out a hand, and you guys kind of clasp arms, just kind of instinctively. you kind of unfocus your eyes. Your vision kind of blurs. It kind of swims. You see like, kind of blurry pattern. Sometimes you can kind of see that waviness when you look in the distance, and there's like a heat wave. There's kind of that vibe to it. I think what you feel is a warmth. I think you are aware of a heartbeat that maybe is just a few milliseconds off what you're feeling in your hand. I think there's a feeling like your arms elongating, like the distance between you and her is vast. I think like you it's very disorienting. She's a very disorienting person.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But yeah, I think if I had to pick one quality, it would be warmth, and that's what I'll give you for a 25.
So that definitely leans more towards human, just weird human, I think. And Haywire will like slowly pull away, and
She just kind of has a smile, maybe for the first time since you've seen her. She just has a little grin on her face.
she'll nod and say, "You've done well for yourself."
He kind of shrugs.
What happened to your parents?
Oh, they're dead.
What happened to them?
Go ahead and roll persuasion and mind for me.
Oh boy.
Or intimidation, like, what happened to them? Where are they?
Well, I actually think at this point she's probably more leaning towards intimidation. That's just because she's an asshole, I guess. Oh. I'd say 16.
16. So I think her face kind of falls a little bit. There's the maybe 5% of grief on her face. Like, so these are old deaths. She's had some time to process. She just points kind of off to the northeast. She says, my daddy, he died before I was born. He was a firefighter and died in a wildfire. That direction, she says. You kind of just look in that direction. There's just mountains, basically, and forest. I could maybe even show you a little bit. That one kind of blocks the... Oh, I can't. I have to zoom way up. Hold on. So quite a few mountains in that distance. So it could be, relatively close. It could be far. Not really sure. She says. So last thing she said was, I think, died before I was born. Just in a wildfire. My mom, she died maybe 2-3 years ago from lung cancer.
So how do you survive?
She kind of looks around and says, people in this town, they knew my parents. They're kind to me.
Lucky.
She says, most things you need you can find. She just kind of gestures towards the woods. So you definitely get the sense that, like, she is, homeless. I think she probably has a backpack that she's kind of lugging around, which hints at that.
This is what that guy's motto was talking about.
Homeless people.
Homeless people.
It's all connected.
We should ask the saw what the Latin means.
You absolutely should. The saw might know.
Hey. Okay. Haywire's gonna nod and say, oh, I just realized you can see my chicken nuggets in the bag. Sorry.
Now that
Haywire's...
you said that,
No, she does not say that. I'm sorry, that was me and my ADHD. Haywire nods and says, please call me if you find out anything else, and we'll scribble down a number on a piece of paper.
Takes it and says, my saw actually doesn't have a phone.
That's okay. You can wiggle your saw, translate, and talk to me.
And she kind of leans. I also don't have a phone.
Use a payphone, and then she'll.
She kind of like looks. She looks past you at the payphone that's appeared. And she's like kind of surprised. She's like, "Oh, I guess we have one of those."
Yep, just for you.
She nods. Okay. And she'll pocket that.
And then Haywire will look at the group and say, "We need to get going."
yeah, probably right.
Sure, yeah. Let's.
So you wander back to the car, hop in. Hayden has it running, warming up. Again, it's winter here, so there's still some snow on the ground. In the 30s at the very least. So you warmed up, sitting here. What would you guys like to do now? And you see Saw Girl, she just kind of wanders off down Main Street. Actually, I think she probably goes to the Washington Hotel. There's a cafe called Frank's potentially there, and she'll be, get coffee there this morning.
I know this might not be our priority, but I would like to have some decent food.
Hayden's like,
yes.
I'm friggin' starving.
It's never mind.
Couple options in town. There's of course the Frank's Cafe that I just mentioned. I believe they have food there at the hotel. There's the restaurant that you guys came from, the bar and grill there. There's the market. You could just grab whatever's there. There's of course stuff back the way you came, like down in near that gas station you guys corrupted. You corrupted a payphone there. There was a bar and grill across the street. And then there was also, I believe, a coffee shop, drive-in burger place down the street from there as well. So a couple options. Nothing too fancy. What do you guys think? What do you feel like?
I don't know. What do you want?
Hayden says, I literally don't care. I just want something.
Right?
She says, most of the things here are just burgers. Just do they have a good burger? You know what I mean?
Look up the Google review.
Yeah, find their Yelp reviews.
Go off some pictures, maybe.
What?
Click
No one
on
likes
the-
the slop we serve on board our ship? Oof.
Yeah, what's wrong with you people? You know how much work we put into that? None.
Less than none, honestly.
Yeah, Frank's to go. Let's see, pictures. No pictures of Frank. Oh yeah, there's photos. Hold on. Let's get rid of you.
I love that this is what our game has descended into.
Food. Stuffed peppers looks like. Maybe some barbecue.
You'll soon learn our games have a tendency to descend.
It's like cornbread. It's way better than Spacer's lasagna.
Yeah, I mean, I was just gonna say.
Tomato-based sauce of some kind. And it seems good enough for Saw Girl, so it might be a good option.
Do we get a discount if we say we know Saw Girl, I wonder?
Maybe.
I was gonna ask if Saw Girl is our standard for what's quality food. Is it good enough for the Saw? That's the real
Yeah,
question.
does the
That's the
saw
big
like it?
So if you take a glance, what you find is she's only drinking coffee. She doesn't have any food in front of her. I don't know. This is looking pretty appetizing. Whole chickens. So I think Hayden's like, we're going here. I wonder if so those photos were posted by I guess you can't see it on here, but there's like a little like a profile that posted it, and it's Frank Casal. So I wonder if that's the like the Frank from Frank's to Goes.
Oh, I love that. I love that we just got back in the car to immediately get out of the car and walk back.
Walk down the street. It's a very
and also
first world problem.
We should probably offer to buy her lunch.
Saw Girl or
Yeah.
sure. So yeah, you walk in. She's posted up like probably at this table here, right next to the door on the left. She's got a cup of coffee in front of her.
Long
You can
time
either-
no see.
She just kind of looks at you like, yeah. Goes back to her cup of coffee. You guys can sit with her if you like, or you can just order and sit apart from her, but cover her bill, whatever you want to do.
Dino's good. He had his slop this morning.
Okay. Hayden will just order like a sandwich. It looks like they have like maybe an Italian sandwich. I don't know what this is. She'll order that. Start eating away at it. She'll sit over here against the window just to keep an eye out.
I'll ask Saw Girl if she wants something to eat. Like, I'd be happy to.
She kind of looks around, nods yes. Sure.
Yeah, I'll get it.
Okay. So you reach into your pocket. You'd have whatever like payment you had before you were here. So I don't know if you're the kind of person that will carry cash on you or like cards, but
Probably card because I'm traveling internationally. Otherwise I'd have to do like the conversion to American
sure.
money and.
So you pull out your card and get ready to pay, and the Frank from Frank's to Goes doesn't even ask like what Saw Girl wants. He just starts like making something. He seems to already know what she would want. And when you go to pay, you notice that the name on your card isn't your name anymore. It's whatever was on your press badge from earlier. So you're like, is this my money? Is this fake money? Is this a real person that I've stolen their identity? You're not sure.
Oh, none of it's real anyways.
Fair enough. You card runs, doesn't get declined or anything.
That's a great feeling.
So he starts bringing out food to you guys as soon as it's ready, and Saw Girl doesn't join you guys. She just eats at her table. Frank brings out her food and sets it in front of her, and she just kind of quietly starts eating. You do see that the Saw is sitting in the chair across from her.
I was gonna ask whether it was like on the table or in the chair across.
No, it's definitely in the chair across.
I explained to everybody also that the saw was like body temperature. Which is unsettling.
Hayden just nods yes through a mouthful of food.
He's lucky.
Any last minute thoughts or plans we want to carry out before we call it a night?
I think I'm good.
Need a week to ponder.
Yeah.
You get to ponder what the fuck that Latin phrase is supposed to mean.
Alright. Yeah, we can call it a night there.
Okay,
Alright.
this was real fun.